Honestly, when it first happened, I didn't think it was going to be serious because Tatum never gets seriously hurt. I have seen him in the past, and people get on him for exaggerating injuries. I remember when he rolled his ankle against the Kings at the end of March. He was excruciating pain, screaming, and he just rolled an ankle and missed 1 or 2 games. So that's where my mind immediately goes, just like, okay, he's fine, whatever. Like he's on the ground, but once he put his face on the floor and you saw him like start choking up and you could tell that like it looks like he's crying, that's when I really felt like, oh, this could be something terrible. And then you see the replays and we've all seen what it looks like. I mean, for whatever reason, if it's something freak and it's not a torn Achilles, God bless, but there's a 99.9% chance it's a torn Achilles. We've seen it a million different times. It's probably the one injury that every sports fan can pick out because it looks so weird. It's usually non-contact. You could put no weight on it. We've seen it, Aaron Rodgers, Kevin Durant, Jayson Tatum today. Um, it sucks, man. He was just turned 27, just entering his prime. I felt like this was his best season up until this point in his career. I thought it was his best regular season. I thought against Orlando, it was one of his best playoff series. First round, not as important, but just the way he was playing, the way he had command of this offense. And this was his probably best individual game in at least 2 years, right? Probably going back to game 6 against Philly. The way he was coming out super hot. He was hitting his threes. He was attacking the basket defensively. He had his mark all over this game early in the first quarter, causing multiple turnovers, getting out in transition. You mentioned it, Joel, he was perfect in this game. Both sides of the ball, facilitating, being active on defense, scoring. It was just everything that Jayson Tatum does well was on display tonight. And the fact that it ends like that is just devastating. Um, we could talk about what this means for the future of the Celtics because they were going to be making changes this offseason. We already knew that. The report had came out, about a month ago at this point that they don't want to be a second apron team for the second year because then some of these restrictions really start kicking in. And with this Tatum injury, he's out all of next year, right? Like maybe he comes back in April, but like I don't know how good the Celtics going to be without him next year. Be a playoff team, but not like a top 2 seed or anything. So the changes could be even more drastic because you could be looking at next year like a lost year as is, right? Like if you don't have Jayson Tatum, you're not competing for a championship. I don't know if you're even competing for an ECF. I mean, I love Jaylen Brown. I love him to death. My second best player, my second favorite player in the league. He was awful tonight. The numbers might look a little nice, but I felt like he had no control offensively in this game. Of course, he's been dealing with injury too, so I want to give him a little bit of slack here. But there's gonna be a lot of changes made, and the fact that Tatum will likely miss all of next season makes me think that the Celtics could get even more aggressive in trades. Right? Is Jaylen Brown and Porzingis and Drew all on the block now instead of maybe a retooling? You could be really looking at like we're going all in for 26, 27 because right now it feels like the 25, 26 season is going to be lost. Porzingis 2 years in a row, first year dealt with the injury, second year dealing with this weird illness. He had probably his best game of the series tonight, but he was nowhere near what he was in the regular season, really all series long. Derek White was the only guy that showed up tonight. Al Horford hit like one shot. Drew Holiday is doing things defensively, offensively, gave you nothing. Thought Jaylen Brown had a pretty poor performance. So it's brutal, man. Credit to the Knicks. Like we'll talk about Tatum, but I think the Knicks are going to win this game regardless, right? They came back from 14 points. That third quarter, Jalen Brunson played out of his mind. And then the fourth quarter, Mikal Bridges once again showing up in the fourth quarter, hitting countless mid-range shots, and they were all net. It felt like the Knicks couldn't miss in that fourth quarter. And when they did miss, they would get some offensive rebounds. So regardless of this Tatum injury, it doesn't take anything away from what New York did. And what New York did was pull off one of the biggest upsets we have seen in our life. Nobody gave the Knicks a chance, us three included, Vegas, everyone you talk to. There was nobody you can find that had any faith that the Knicks could even take this to 6 or 7 games, let alone win this series potentially in 5. So I think it just really goes to show how great this Knicks team has been because it's a lot of guys that have gotten overlooked or discredited. Jalen Brunson, second round pick, let go of by Dallas. Karl-Anthony Towns looked at as a playoff dropper, gets traded by his hometown franchise after they make the WCF. Mikal Bridges gets clowned the entire season for all of these firsts they gave up, and he showed up time and time again. Josh Hart's always one of the most overlooked guys. So as much as I'm sick about it, the Knicks outplayed Boston, at least in this game, right? It's tough though, man. it is tough to see my favorite player, my favorite sports player, period, go down like this. The only thing I could hope is just, it's he can replicate what Kevin Durant did, and Kevin Durant did it at an older age. He did it, 5 years ago at this point. So you think medicine's even better, because the track record of Achilles aren't great. Kevin Durant's really the only guy you're looking at saying he came back just as good, if not better. So that's really the only thing I'm holding on hope for, that he could come back, and just with the medicine that we have and all the doctors, that he could return to this top 5 level, because it's a brutal injury to have. It's the worst injury you could possibly have. And it was the worst time for Boston, because you're going down 3-1, series is over, season's over, and it feels like next season is over already, and we haven't even played a game yet.
Not gonna lie, a lot of thoughts. So I'm gonna try my best to keep them organized. First off, Dels, I'm sorry, King. This is brutal. This is really tough. As someone who obviously you guys know, I want the Knicks to win. The Jayson Tatum news is kind of putting a damper on things. You never want to see a player, period, go out, let alone the caliber of Jayson Tatum. And you have to give him his flowers, what he did tonight. You guys said it spot on. He was flawless tonight. He could do whatever he wanted with the basketball. The jump shot was on. His ability to get downhill, the playmaking was on full effect. He was the best version of himself that we've seen this playoffs. And like you mentioned, Dels, I think it's spot on. I think this is the best performance that he's had in a playoff since Game 7 when he went for 50 against Philadelphia. He was unbelievable tonight. For it to be the case that we're leaving this game and we don't know what the future holds for not just the Boston Celtics, but obviously for Jayson Tatum, it's tough to sit with. We throw all these jokes about the Celtics, but when push comes to shove, we acknowledge Jayson Tatum when it comes to him and his stature and his standing in the league. He's a superstar, and that was on display today. I thought that if you guys were to have won this year's championship, you had a chance for a three-peat. Maybe ownership would have been a little bit more open to the idea, hey, let's keep this core together. Let's try and three-peat. Let's make history. I think with this Jayson Tatum injury, I'm with you. I don't see the reality of trying to go ahead and go all in on keeping these guys together, because realistically, now you're down 3-1. It looks as if, especially if Jayson Tatum's going to miss the remainder of this series, the Knicks should close out this series, whether it's in 5-6 games. You respect the foundation that you guys still have without Tatum, but the truth is, you guys you guys haven't been this great when Jayson Tatum has been off the court in this playoffs. He's been your main catalyst for both offense and maybe not defense, but you understand what he provides on that side of the ball. It sucks. It's really terrible. I'm praying for the best for Jayson Tatum. It really is a bummer to see him go down in this series.
If you lose this series, it was with Tatum healthy, you kind of just say to yourself, we just run it back next year. It is what it is. This wasn't our best year. We weren't our healthiest. We got to figure some things out, maybe a change of philosophy, because I do think Joe Mazzulla has been outcoached by Tibbs in this series, especially in Game 4. With the Tatum injury now, not only do I think it's going to reveal his value to everybody that watches the NBA, but it also puts the Celtics in a bit of a tricky situation of what direction they want to approach. They're clearly talented enough to compete for a playoff spot. Can they compete for a title? Probably not. You look at the second apron stuff that's heading their way. Do they want to spend a lot of money on a very expensive roster? Drew Holiday is only getting older. His value is only going to lessen. You might want to move off of him. Kristaps Porzingis, I see a lot of Celtics fans talk about it, and you can see it when you watch him. He just hasn't looked himself this year, and he's very expendable. I also think that he is somebody that, back to his Dallas days, he is prone to not show up in big moments. They won the championship without him last year. I think he becomes expendable. And then Al Horford, he's only getting older. So I think the Celtics are kind of caught in a tough situation with this Tatum injury, that not only do you have to think about regrouping for next year, but you have to wonder that when Tatum does eventually come back, if Drew, if Porzingis, if Horford are still going to be on this team. Tatum might come back 2 seasons from now, and the only player left on this team that we see currently on the roster is Derek White and Jaylen Brown, and that is it.
Yeah, I think I say it all the time, but windows are never as big as you think they are. And of course, no one anticipates your best player tearing his damn Achilles. That shortens everybody's window in the NBA. But that's why it's so important that regardless of what the path is, regardless of what anyone says, you take advantage of your opportunity, right? Like that's why last year, Boston finally breaking through and win the championship. Of course, as a fan, you're so excited, but it puts into perspective like how every run is so crucial because you do need everything to go right? Like you need to be healthy and you need some breaks along your way. I mean, it's hard to find really any champion over the last 5+ years at this point that didn't get a break, whether it was their opposition, getting banged up, whether it was them staying healthy, them getting the calls. It's just when you're a champion, when you win the championship, those things just break your way. That's why you end up winning the championship, right? So I think what you said is right, Joel. The Celtics are in a bit of a crossroads right now because I thought going into the offseason, there would be some moves for sure, right? It felt like the easiest was Porzingis just because he's been unavailable mostly for the last 2 years. And then it felt like this playoff run really put a cap on it. And it's an illness that they've kind of figured out. They said they figured it out, but there seems to be no treatment for it. I don't really know what it is, but the fact that he has played so poorly throughout this playoffs, he's loved in Boston. Boston fans, at least when they're in the Garden, love him. I know on Twitter it's different, but Twitter's a whole different world. So I think it makes moving off him just a little bit easier. Honestly, if the bright side is just he was so bad in these playoffs that I think Celtics fans are gonna be like, you know what, I see it. The only player I really feel confident is 100% going to be staying is Derek White.
White,
Yeah,
facts.
just because his contract is like 30 something million a year, 32 million. This is one of the best 3-point shooters, one of the best defenders. Plays is durable. He's the only one that I have real confidence is going to be here for the next couple of seasons. Everyone else is on the table. You ran through the list. Al Horford is old. Jaylen Brown, I think is going to stay. But again, like if you could go and make a huge move, like Jaylen Brown's probably a big piece in that. Porzingis, we talked about. Drew Holiday's old. So outside of Derek White, man, this team's going to look a lot different. And the only thing I can really think of right now is just Jayson Tatum. Hopefully he could, get back and, be what he was, be who he was. This was top 5 player to me. Again, this was his best season to me. And it's a shame that he couldn't cap it off. And the way he would have thought, like if the Celtics, and again, the Knicks would have won this game regardless of the injury, but like Jayson Tatum finishes this game with a W. We're like, oh shit, this was his second or third best performance ever. Like that was the type of time he was on. This is one of the best performances we've seen in this playoffs. Like that's how dominant he was. And it's just such a twist to the gut that it ends like this, I'm happy he got to go off with such an amazing performance and giving his team his all when really nobody else other than White was showing up. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason. The first time in a while, really, for Boston, at least 2 years where you're like, holy shit, like I really don't know what's going to happen. Because even the offseason where Porzingis and Drew Holiday get traded, we weren't really expecting it, right? Like we had thought maybe there could be moves being made, but Marcus Smart's going to get we did not anticipate those moves to happen. So this is the first offseason in, years for at least this Jays era that we're going into the offseason. Like there's going to be some massive turnover. There could be 3 different starters in the starting lineup next season. I'm happy Brad Stevens is the president of basketball operations because he's one of the smartest and I have all the faith in the world he'll be able to figure it out. But what you said is right, Joel. Again, Twitter is such a weird place that I don't take seriously. But if you want to take it seriously just for this exercise, people think Tatum is whack and he's a super team merchant and they would be fine without him. Wait until you see next season because I think this is a team that is probably be a top 6 seed still just because the East really isn't that good. But you're going to see the massive, massive loss on him because they go from a title favorite for majority of the season to a team that realistically could get bounced in the first round.
And we're going to see if Jaylen Brown can be the number 1 guy for the entirety of the season. I don't think that Brad Stevens is going to wave the white flag next year. I would be shocked. I think maybe this is a year where they try to build the roster more around Jaylen Brown and they say, okay, let's see how far you can take us if you were just the main focal point of this. Not a one-to-one comparison, but Michael Jordan retiring and then Scottie Pippen just taking a mantle and leading the Bulls to top season in the Eastern Conference. It's not a one-to-one comparison, but I think Jaylen Brown has shown you in flashes that maybe he can take on a bigger role. And sometimes he's kind of been a little bit subliminal in wanting that. So I think now he's kind of forced into it. I think Tatum has just been one of the most durable players since he's got into the NBA. 8 years, he's played over 700 games, regular season and the playoffs. I mean, there's somebody that has a lot of mileage on his body and has been one of the most durable players in his career. And not too long ago, I made a comparison on Twitter with him and Kevin Durant in the first 8 seasons because Tatum's a 6-time All-Star. He's going to be a 5-time All-NBA player. He's a champion. He's a conference finals MVP. He has a great resume for his age, and I wish this injury didn't happen because he would have just kept stacking onto that resume. And even if the Knicks won this game, if Tatum finished it, which I think was a huge possibility, the series was not over. The Celtics are capable of rattling off 3 wins in a row. I mean, they did it when they were down 3-0 against the Heat when they were favored against them. So this team is capable of that. But without Tatum, it does feel kind of like it is over. I just am curious on how he's going to adjust to it because we already think that he's a little bit too jump shot heavy. Over the last 4 seasons, he shot 35% on his 3-point shots on 9 attempts. Over the last 3 playoffs, he shot 31% from 3. And I think a big reason why Kevin Durant was able to adjust to his injury when it happened, even at his older age, was because he didn't rely on his athleticism as much, and he had one of the most efficient jump shots that we've ever seen. So I think this is a moment for Tatum to an adjustment period for him to what is he going to be next? Is he going to be more jump shot reliant, improve that jump shot, and just get that to a heightened level? So I think there's going to be a huge adjustment period for him, but I believe in his work ethic. I believe in the amount of time
100%.
that he puts into it. So I think he'll be fine. I don't think this is one of those scenarios where this injury kind of zaps the player that we saw. I think Tatum is going to come back from this and he's still going to be an elite player.
Dels, let me say this to you though, man. I really can't disagree with you, not even a little bit, in terms of how you guys look next year without Tatum, because you've had the luxury, at least this season, to not have to play with a legitimate one. And you've had that luxury over these last couple of seasons, really, where Jayson Tatum's your primary ball handler, your primary playmaker. He has been, and that leap has been super evident in how amazing he has been at getting better at being a playmaker and being a facilitator. I'm very interested to see next season if, obviously, let's hope this isn't the case. But if Jayson Tatum, unfortunately, is out for the entirety of the 2025 season, who becomes that lead guard? Is it just going to be full-time Derek White now? Because Derek White obviously has shown the flashes to be able to do so. And then, of course, you talk about Jaylen Brown. That's intriguing to me personally.
Not a
Obviously,
playmaker.
no, not at all. But I'm talking more so in the sense, in the lens of saying this is a number 1 scorer. And you talk about Michael Jordan, you talk about Scottie Pippen. It's the opposite. It's like Jayson Tatum has the abilities and the talents that Scottie had, where he was a great passer, great defender, can score the basketball at an extremely high level. It's just that, again, nobody's calling Jaylen Brown Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was a much better playmaker than Jaylen Brown was, but that's his job, to go ahead and score the basketball, to play high level defense, not that much of a playmaker. So that's where next season for me becomes a real difficulty with the Celtics, as who's going to be that guy that's going to facilitate the offense? Is it just going to be Derek White? Is Drew Holiday gone? We know that he has that capability. So who's going to be your backup guy? Are we just going to Peyton Pritchard? I just have so many questions when I look at this Celtics team without Tatum.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a decision Brad Stevens is going to have to make. Do we continue to try to compete without our best player, or do we kind of try to retool the roster so we are better with our best player? Because I think it's a tricky dynamic to manage and balance out, because if they try to go all in for next year with Tatum likely out, then you're really strapping yourself to an aging roster with some players that might have had value on the market that you could have gotten assets for. And they do own their 2026 first round pick. So like a mediocre season wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they got like this 15th or 16th pick in the draft. So I think it's going to be tough for Brad Stevens to balance out. I do think that Porzingis is probably on the move, though. I think that's the first move they got to kind of address, and it's going to leave them with a big hole at center next year.
Yeah, you just wonder what the trade value is on most of these guys. Like
Fact.
Drew Holiday is 34, 35 years old. He's only gonna want to play for a contender, right? Like he's made that known throughout his career. Like I'm not going to some whack team. It's not like some rebuilding team's gonna trade for Drew Holiday, but he just got paid last offseason. Multiple years left on that contract. He's been great as a Celtic in the playoffs. So I think that like playoff dropper is kind of off his name now. Still, you saw the level of defense he was playing on Brunson. Really, outside today, Brunson was getting the better of everybody. But those first 3 games, he had, gave Brunson hell all 3 of those games. So he's still a high level player. It's just the market's probably not going to be huge for him. Again, a couple of teams are going to be interested just because of his age, contract, and Drew Holiday's side too, wanting to play for them. Porzingis is another one who maybe he has a larger market because maybe there's just some people think untapped potential, and you see the ceiling of Porzingis. Like if everything goes right for him, he can play 65 games and he's number 1 option. Like, can he be like a 3rd-team All-NBA guy and All-Star level? Like that's what Porzingis has. So maybe he has a bit more trade value than last season. Just Jaylen Brown. Like number 1 is Boston interested? Because up till this point, the only guy they've been willing to move off Brown for was Kevin Durant a few off seasons ago. Everyone else, it's off the table. Jaylen Brown is not available, and that's another guy who got paid $300 million. And I'm sure he would have a bigger market just because he has playoff success. He's shown to be an All-NBA level player. He's shown to be a two-way player. He's shown in the finals to be an extraordinary defender. So the package, or excuse me, the market would definitely be there. But again, it's like these guys all have huge contracts, right? And it's going to be hard for Brad to kind of make this roster work. Because I don't think you're going into next season trying to win shit. Like respectfully, I don't think you could go into this offseason and be like, oh, we need to make moves around the edges to really compete in 25, 26. I think Brad knows that. I think everyone in the organization knows like it's going to be a bit of a rebuilding year, a bit of a gap year where, you try to fight your ass off for like 47 wins and get into the playoffs and hopefully you win a playoff series. But there's going to be a lot of changes in the offseason.